Welcome to today's deep dive. I am your host, and as always, I have our resident expert here with me to break everything down.
Hey there. I'm really excited to get into this one.
Me too, because, well, you know that feeling like when you are caught in a rip current in the ocean?
Oh, yeah, it is terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
Your instinct, your immediate human panic just tells you to swim as hard as you possibly can against the water.
Straight back toward the shore.
Exactly. You paddle furiously, you exhaust every single ounce of your energy, and yet you look up and you are actually further away from the beach than when you started.
Yeah, and it's a battle you are pretty much guaranteed to lose.
Completely.
Yeah.
The only way to survive, like what the lifeguards always tell us, is to stop fighting.
You just have to surrender to the water.
Yeah, let it pull you out, and simply float until the current finally releases you. It is entirely counterintuitive. You have to do absolutely nothing to save yourself.
That instinct to fight the current, to force our human will upon the movement of the water, is exactly what the author of today's text argues is the root of all human struggle.
It's wild because today we are exploring this profoundly demanding philosophical text from March 2011.
Right. Written by Xu Feng and translated by Qin Yu.
Yeah, and it essentially claims that almost every single thing we do to survive is actually, drowning us.
It really does.
Okay, let's unpack this because our mission today is to understand two radically different ways of existing in this universe. The first is wu wei, which translates to non-action.
And the second is yu wei, or purposeful action.
Right. And we're going to explore how these two, operating systems dictate our daily lives. And more importantly, we're going to look at the ultimate, highly specific escape hatch this text provides for getting out of the daily grind.
Because this source material, it isn't just theory. It operates as a literal, step-by-step roadmap to what it calls heaven.
Which is quite a claim. And right out of the gate, it splits all of reality into this brutal binary choice. You're either operating on the way of heaven or the way of humanity.
What's fascinating here is how the philosophy immediately eliminates any gray area. There's absolutely no middle ground.
None at all.
No,
Right.
you are either functioning in a state of wu-wei or you are trapped in yu-wei. So to even begin grasping how to reach the highest state of life, we have to look at the underlying mechanics of these two paths.
Right, the basic operating systems. Let's start with wu wei.
So the way of heaven, wu-wei, it means operating according to objective laws. It's about letting things naturally rise and fall.
Like completely passive.
Exactly. Think of the passive imagery here. Letting flowers bloom and wither, letting the seasons change, letting the cold and the heat come and go without any emotional resistance.
Wow, zero resistance.
The critical mechanism is the complete absence of worry or thought. It is existing like the ocean itself, vast, deep, and moving purely according to gravitational truths, completely devoid of desire or anxiety.
Reading the source material, I couldn't help but picture yu wei, the way of humanity, where most of us spend every single day as, aggressively paddling a surfboard.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, is yu wei, aggressively paddling a surfboard to force yourself onto a wave, while wu wei is just being the ocean itself, letting the tides naturally move?
That perfectly illustrates the mechanism of friction involved. Because, when you're surfing, you are constantly scanning the horizon, fighting the chop, trying to force yourself onto a wave.
Just to get that brief thrill.
Right. You're constantly burning energy to manipulate your environment. And the text makes a stark value judgment based on that exact friction. It states that the difference between wisdom and foolishness is measured precisely by whether someone practices non-action or purposeful action.
So if you're paddling, you're foolish.
Well, according to this framework, yeah. The common people, the multitudes burning themselves out at their jobs and their relationships, they are practitioners of purposeful action. They are the ones paddling the surfboard.
While the sages are the ocean.
Exactly. Sages and saints practice non-action. To back this up, the text pulls from the foundational text of Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, noting, and I quote, "Therefore, the sage deals with affairs through non-action and teaches without words."
Because desire inherently requires manipulation.
Yes, and manipulation inherently causes suffering.
But, stopping the paddling and just floating isn't really where this ends, is it?
No, not at all.
The concept of wu-wei gets pushed to this absolute extreme. To achieve true non-action, you have to undergo a radical untethering from the physical and mental world.
A complete shutdown.
Yeah, and to explain just how extreme this untethering has to be, the text invokes the Heart Sutra.
Which is a massive deal in Eastern philosophy.
Right. For a quick bit of context for you listening, the Heart Sutra is basically the ultimate Buddhist cheat sheet on emptiness. It is a very famous, very dense, ancient teaching all about how everything we think is real, everything we base our identities on is actually an illusion.
And the list of things one must be free of, according to the way the text uses this sutra, well, it strips away the very foundation of human experience.
It's intense.
It demands that you have no sensation, no perception, and no consciousness. It requires detaching from the physical senses,
Mhm.
meaning no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind.
Wait, literally your physical senses?
Literally,
Yeah.
you abandon form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. It even goes so far as to demand that you recognize there's no old age, no death, and no suffering.
So mechanically speaking, you are completely shutting down the sensory input and the cognitive processing that makes you an individual living in the material world.
You're pulling the plug on human experience.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and honestly, a bit baffling to my modern brain.
Hmm.
Wait, the text says, no wisdom and no attainment with nothing to attain.
Yeah, that's a direct quote.
Usually we think of sages as trying to attain ultimate wisdom, adding something profound to our consciousness. Why is the goal here to achieve a state of absolute zero?
That is the core paradox of the text. What stands out to you about this list of things to give up? For most of us, that list contains our entire perception of reality, right?
Yeah, it's literally everything.
It is everything that makes life colorful and meaningful. But the rationale here relies on a direct inverse relationship. The more you possess, the more you suffer.
Because it's more stuff to worry about.
Exactly. Every single thing you hold on to, whether that is a physical object, an emotional attachment to a loved one, or even intellectual pride in your own wisdom, it creates a tether.
Right, a tether to the material world.
It creates something you have to defend, maintain, or worry about losing. And that worry inherently is you weigh. It's purposeful action. It pulls you further away from heaven.
So to be truly free, you must be a completely blank slate.
That's the only way. You must be completely unselfish, free from delusional dreams, and possess a heart without any attachment or fear. The author claims that having nothing is actually the highest state of life.
It's the ultimate minimalist philosophy, but applied not just to your physical possessions, but to your actual consciousness. Just empty the vessel completely.
Completely empty.
But there has to be a mechanism for the reward here, right? Like, what happens when you successfully clear out all the sensation, the perception, the desire?
Well, this is where the text shifts gears from ancient Eastern philosophical principles into a grand, almost cosmic destination. It introduces the concept of the greatest creator.
The greatest create.
Yes, the greatest creator is presented as the ultimate literal embodiment of wu-wei. The way of this creator is described as non-action, yet nothing is left undone.
Nothing is left undone. That's powerful.
In the face of this immense cosmic force, all of our frantic human efforts, all of our stressful, purposeful action are entirely insignificant. To succeed, one must merge with this way and become one with the greatest creator.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like plugging your tiny, overloaded human hard drive into the ultimate cosmic supercomputer.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, like you stop relying on your own limited processing power and just let the universe run the software. You just turn the engine off and let the infinite power of the water carry you exactly where you need to go.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this cosmic merger is the ultimate justification for practicing wu-wei. It's a trade. You are trading the relentless, painful friction of human struggle for divine effortlessness.
And the rewards are pretty massive.
Oh, absolutely. You attain eternal life. You become celestial beings. You handle all affairs effortlessly because the Creator's wisdom essentially becomes your wisdom.
Wow.
And ultimately, you enter the Elysium world, which the text frames as a realm of pure spiritual bliss, totally free from the physical decay that defines our reality.
Okay, so turning off the engine, letting the universe run the software, and floating into eternal spiritual bliss sounds amazing, but then we hit this massive curveball in the reading.
A huge roadblock.
Yeah, the text outlines a roadblock to achieving this state that is so immense, so deeply ingrained in our daily reality, that it essentially disqualifies almost everyone listening to us right now.
The list of disqualifiers is brutal in its scope. It states unequivocally that if your heart is tied to certain things, you are hopelessly stuck in Yu-Wei.
Stuck in purposeful action.
Right.
Well,
And therefore, you cannot become a saint, a celestial being, or a Buddha.
and the mechanism behind these disqualifiers, it makes terrifying sense within the philosophy. Like, you are disqualified if your heart is tied to marriage.
Marriage, family, religion, political parties, or nations.
Right, because marriage inherently requires you to plan for the future, to protect another person, to manipulate your environment, to ensure their survival. That is Yu Wei.
Exactly. Property, status, and reputation also trap you. And it gets even more fundamental than that.
Yeah, it really does.
If you simply worry about food, clothing, shelter, transportation, birth, aging, illness, and death, you are engaging in purposeful action.
Which is crazy, because if you have dependencies, hopes, fears, or anxieties, even like the anxiety of how to pay rent next month, you are trapped.
You're trapped in Yue.
This seems completely impossible for anyone listening right now. How can anyone just stop worrying about feeding themselves or caring for their family? Isn't the text asking us to effectively stop being human?
This raises an important question, and honestly, confirming your frustration is exactly the author's point.
Wait, really?
The frustration is the point.
Yes. The text explicitly states that in the secular world, you cannot even begin to understand what non-action is, let alone achieve it. The secular world is entirely and inescapably defined by Yue.
Okay, that makes sense, because capitalism, social structures, family units, they all demand purposeful action.
Right. You have to earn wages, you have to consume, you have to care for dependents. Therefore, by its very design, secular existence is utterly incompatible with the way of heaven.
So if I literally cannot pay my rent without using Yue, does the text offer an actual way out? Or is it just making us feel terrible about the basic requirements of being alive?
This is where the source material does something really surprising.
Yeah, it takes a hard left turn.
It does. Because the secular world makes wu-wei utterly impossible, the author pivots completely away from the abstract philosophy and drops a highly specific physical solution he has engineered to bypass this trap.
And we see a fascinating rhetorical shift here.
We really do. It transitions from a broad synthesis of Buddhist and Taoist thought into a direct, urgent call to action. The author introduces a physical space he has established, which he calls the second home.
The second home!
Yes, he urges his followers to strive to enter this specific environment because, he claims, it is the sole place on earth where one can gradually enter a state of non-action.
It's like he's saying society is a rigged casino where you are forced to play the game of Yue. You know, you have to bet your energy just to survive, and the house always wins.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So he built a brand new exclusive casino, the second home, where the rules actually allow you to win at Wu-Wei.
Exactly. The author positions himself as the crucial guide out of that rigged casino. He claims to have, quote, paved a smooth path to heaven and acts as a guide, providing a route map to a bright and indescribably wonderful future.
Serving as the earthly gateway to the Elysium world.
Right. And to really hammer home why you should be willing to sever all your earthly ties and enter the second home, the text closes with a powerful quote from the Diamond Sutra.
Another major Buddhist text, for those keeping track, focused on cutting through the illusions of the material world.
The quote says, all conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like dew or a flash of lightning. Thus should you view them.
It perfectly encapsulates the final plea to the reader. By framing the entire secular world, every job, every mortgage, every social status, as a passing illusion, an ephemeral bubble about to pop, well, it drastically diminishes its power.
Mechanically, if your crushing anxiety about your career is just a flash of lightning, it becomes significantly easier to justify walking away from it.
Right. The text weaponizes the transient nature of reality to urge the reader toward the eternal reality of the greatest creator, which, again, is accessible only through the second home.
It's a very compelling pitch, if you accept the premise.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of philosophical and practical ground today. We started by looking at the serene, frictionless mechanics of Wu-Wei, the way of heaven, where you act like the ocean, letting the tides roll without effort.
And we contrasted that with the exhausting reality of Yu-Wei, where we constantly act like frantic waves, burning energy to bend the world to our desires.
Then we explored the extreme, radical untethering required to actually achieve this state, detailing how one must systematically shut down their sensory input and sever every conceivable earthly attachment.
Aiming for a state of absolute cognitive and physical nothingness to merge with the cosmic flow of the greatest creator.
And finally, we hit the stark realization that secular society, by demanding we pay for our survival and care for our families, makes wu-wei fundamentally impossible, which leads directly to the text's ultimate pitch, the second home.
A very specific, engineered sanctuary.
Exactly. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to reflect on your own life for a moment. Even if you aren't packing your bags to abandon society for the second home, look closely at your daily routine.
It's a useful exercise.
How much of your daily exhaustion, your stress, comes from being trapped in Yue, constantly forcing the waves rather than letting yourself float in the ocean?
Recognizing the difference between what we actually need to control and what we're needlessly fighting against can save a tremendous amount of energy.
Absolutely. But I want to leave you with one final, lingering question, building directly on the source material we just explored.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think back to that opening image of the rip current. The advice is to stop fighting and let the current take you. But according to this philosophy, achieving true non-action and ultimate cosmic freedom requires systematically severing every human attachment, including family ties, marriage, and the basic survival instincts that keep us alive.
It demands everything.
It really does. So if achieving true non-action requires systematically severing every human attachment, does reaching the highest state of life inherently require us to sacrifice our very humanity?